Hello everyone and welcome. We're here in Yeshivat Chut Shel Chesed under the guidance of Rabbi Shalom Arush, and we continue to learn, to study, to listen to the stories of Rabbi Nachman of Breslev. This is the second story, titled The King and the Emperor. We're holding in the middle of the story, almost coming near the end, near the closing of the story. Not just there, but we're getting closer. This is a very deep story. It's a very mystical story. It's not so much revealed, but we have to always remember that the main thing for us is to just listen to the story, to read the words, to listen to the words. And they do great wonders for us, to wake us up from our sleep, whether we're having a hard time with our sleep physically, spiritually, emotionally. We just feel dead. We need these stories to wake us up. So, the emperor's daughter is looking for her soulmate, and along the road she gets all these people wanting to marry her and wanting to force her into marriage, and she has to keep on being clever and smart and running away and freeing herself from these people. And that's us also. Sometimes we're looking for our soulmate and it's just not the right one, and it's just not working out, and we need a lot of help from Hashem in this subject. But this can apply to anything else that we're trying to work on, something that we're trying to connect to, a relationship, whatever it is. There's always going to be barriers, and there's always going to be hardships, but the hardships, we can find some light there and some tools to help us in the future. Like over here, for instance, she had the wine, and the wine is going to help her. It helped her in the past, and it will help her in the future again. She got the wine from an evil person, but it helped her to combat more evil. So, we're holding here in the story that she ran away with her 11 maidservants, and they were all looking for her. And all of a sudden, they realized that they got to an island, and there were 12 pirates. So there were 12 on 12 here. So, the pirates scream out, "Who is the greatest among you?" Sorry, I made a mistake. "Who is the greatest among you?" asked the emperor's daughter. They pointed him out. She said to him, "What is your occupation?" He said, "We are pirates." She said, "We're also pirates. You rob with your strength, but we rob with our cleverness. We know languages, music. What will you gain if you just kill us? Better marry us, then in addition to our wealth that we have inside our boat, we're also pirates, we have wealth, you'll also have wives." The emperor's daughter showed the pirates everything that was on her ship. The pirates saw the wealth, and the pirates also showed the women all their wealth, taking them to all their hiding places. They agreed that they won't get married at once, but one after another. And the higher up you are in the rank, the first choice you get. She then said, "Hey, come guys, let's have some fantastically good wine." And they all said, "Wow. We never had such a wine." She said, "Yeah, this is the first time I'm breaking it out. Finally able to meet my destined husband." She served the wine in 12 goblets. Each one should drink. They drank and became so drunk, and they fell asleep. "Come," she said to her companions, "each one of you slit the throat of your destined husband." So here she's already acting not like a emperor's daughter. She's acting a little bit wild, but she had to do this, and she got this from being in proximity to the pirates. Started to have an effect on her. The woman slaughtered all the pirates, and then they found their treasures, which were greater than that of any king. They agreed that they would not take any copper or silver, just gold and precious stones. They threw everything that was not valuable off the ship and loaded it down with more valuable gold and precious stones that they found on the island from the pirates. The women also agreed that they would not dress like women anymore. They sewed themselves men clothing in a German style. Then they sailed on their ship. German style means like a short jacket, not like Rabbi Nachman was in Poland and the Ukraine. That's where they had longer coats. But they made themselves short jackets. Why'd they dress up like men? So, could be she just had this realization that instead of the men chasing us all day long and wanting us, why don't we dress up like men and they won't be after us? And she'll be saved from having to find her soulmate. She won't have to get mixed up with any more men anymore, any more relationships. Another reason is, like we saw before, that they acted like men, so they had to, so to speak, just let down that aspect. But whatever the reason, they decided to dress like men. Meanwhile, there was an elderly king who had an only son. This time it's the opposite. Before we had the merchants and his son, whose son was a smart king, a smart son. Here the son is a foolish son, as we'll see now. The king's son said that he will take a journey by sea with his wife, so to accustom her to the sea air, that if heaven forbid they were forced to flee by sea, she would be prepared, she would be able to deal with life on the water. He took his wife and royal ministers and sailed off on the ship. See, that's already a smallness of mind. He's realizing that, hey, maybe we'll have to run away one day. A person shouldn't think like that. You should think positive. You should think happy thoughts. You should think that Hashem wants to do good for you. And I'm only going to have good in my life. So they were very happy. They played games. Could be they had told jokes and stuff like that. Then they all decided to take off their clothes. A person, it all starts with jokes, and jokes become not so nice, and one thing leads to the next. The king and the royal ministers on the ship were so elated they decided to undress, leaving only their shirts. Showing that everything else was uncovered. Then they had a contest to see who would climb the mast. The king's son tried to climb first. Meanwhile, the emperor's daughter approached in her ship, and she saw the other ship with the king's son and ministers. At first she was afraid to come close, but then she saw that they were all playing games. He said, hey, they're not pirates. We dealt with pirates already. We can get close to these people. The emperor's daughter said to our companions, I can knock that bald one into the sea. She was referring to the king's son, who was climbing on the mast in the middle of the boat. The king's son had lost all his hair and was bald. Hair, on one hand, can be something holy, but if it's long and it could be a place of impurity. How is that possible, they asked. We are still quite far from them. She said, I had a burning glass, maybe sort of like a magnifying glass. She would use it to knock him down. She explained that she would not knock him down until he had climbed to the very top of the mast. As long as he was climbing the mast, he would fall down to the ship. But once he gets to the top, then he'll fall into the water. So she waited till he got to the very, very top, and all his men are saying, yeah. And she aimed her burning glass at his head, and his brain was burnt, and he fell to the sea. The men of the king's ship saw him fall, and there was a great panic. How could they ever return home? The old king would die of grief. They decided to go over to the ship that's close. They said, hey, maybe there's a doctor on board. They came close to the ship, and they saw all the ladies, but they were really dressed like men, right? And they said, don't be afraid, we were not going to harm you, we're just regular people here. The men asked them, do you have a doctor on board? Perhaps he can give us some advice? They told them the whole story, how the king's son had fallen into the sea. Fish him out of the sea, said the emperor's daughter. The men located the body and took him out of the water. The emperor's daughter felt the king's pulse and said, his issue is that his brain is burnt. They opened up his head, exposing his brain, and they saw that she was right. They were dumbfounded. The men asked her to go home with them, and she would become the king's personal physician. She would be very important and very high status. She said, nah, it's not really a physician, it's just I have a special knowledge in these issues. However, they refused to want to go home, and they said, we're going to stick around with you. Continue just a little bit more. The royal ministers decided that it would be a very good thing if their queen would marry this physician, since they saw that she just is really the emperor's daughter, and they said that he had very great wisdom. So again, they just keep on chasing her for whatever reason. Obviously, this is a very holy union, and a union of, could be something to do with Mashiach or something like that. But they all want to marry this lady, but they're really not the right one yet. If the physician would do this, he would be their king. They would then kill their elderly king, right? Because we said that these ministers had an old king, and this was the king's son. And if they bring her in, then they'll kill the king, right? The queen also thought that it would be very good to marry a physician, but she was afraid that the nation would not want him as their king. So let's stop here for today. It's going to get a little bit interesting, the story. And hopefully in the next class we'll be able to finish it. But we saw today again, she can't keep on going without having issues. But the issues are always going to make us stronger, always going to make us closer, as long as we have a positive attitude. And to realize that Hashem loves us, and He only wants to do good for us. And we should repeat this over and over again, never to forget. Hashem loves us. He's only going to do good for us, and He only wants us to be happy, and He only wants to give us good. Oh, sometimes things don't work out in life. We have to stop and pause and realize maybe I'm doing something wrong, or maybe it was just the fact that I am able to turn to Hashem and stop and have some self-awareness and say, hey, what's going on? That is a big present in and of itself. But we hope to bring about good things by thinking positive, from looking for the positive stuff, and trying to find the special treasures hidden in the tough times, because tough times are really a great light, just as too light for us to realize. May Hashem help us to let these stories do what they're supposed to be doing, to wake us up, to bring us closer to Hashem. And hope everyone has a great week. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be able to finish the story next class together. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us, and have a great week.